Hello, everybody. Um, Hope you're doing well tonight. Let me coming to you live. Welcome first to the every other Sunday, which is currently once a month. Um, Rooftops of America live stream, and I'm coming to you live from my in-laws' basement in Nashville. I've got my um, festive palm tree behind me, and joining me tonight as my accompaniment is this tasty beverage from Trogs. It's their chocolate elf. Um, you can only get it in their holiday mix pack, and Trogs is pretty limited into that mid-Atlantic region, et cetera, et cetera. Lead off with a Merry Christmas. I hope everybody had the holidays have been treating you well so far, and that they've been better than mine. I feel like, once again, 2025 strikes again. Been battling a head cold since Christmas Eve, and I think I'm starting to get over it, slowly but surely. So, if I'm a little sniffy, that's still why. My sinuses are still a little bit congested. But yes, I'll be more than happy to put 2025 in the rear view mirror. It has been a year. So let's see. We've got well, hello. Hello, Bill. Hello, Jess. Hey, Nick. I'm glad you all are here. Thanks for jumping on. I know this is sort of I didn't get this episode set up or this live stream set up until like this afternoon when I reminded myself of like, oh, that's right. I said I was going to do one after Christmas. And so now we're doing one after Christmas. I figured, in the spirit of reflection, I, over the last couple days, in particular over the holidays, I've been, going back through and figuring out what were some of the. I've talked a lot of, 2025 was, I feel like broken record, king of dead horse. 2025 was a rough year, but there were some highlights, and I want to sort of reflect on that before I jump in and sort of share, like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing in 2026. And so I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, despite everything, how everything went sideways, what were some of the fun things that were cool that I'm glad I got a chance to do this year? And a couple of them did readily spring to mind. One was June, when I was able to go see with Jess, um, Garden of the Gods, and then make that shot of going up Pikes Peak, which we didn't get quite to the top, but it's worth going back and trying again down the road. But that adventure, those couple days doing that and filming that Fearsome Critters episode for Slide Rock Bolter was clearly one of the highlights. Even getting a couple episodes of Fearsome Critters, was a bit of a highlight. Like everything else that has been put on pause right now, but I'm hoping to get it back into the swing of things in 2026. If anybody might be able to, if you know a potential artist or somebody who does animation, I would be interested in talking to them because I think I might have to find new services because I might have a few talents in the creative fields, but art uh, is not one of them. I am merely an appreciative soul when it comes to art. I cannot draw, I cannot paint, nor do I pretend that I could. So, but that was a highlight too. Getting some new content out there, writing some great stories, and sharing that with folks. I think that was one of the highlights too. Also in June, once again going down to El Paso, um, and yeah, seeing my brother, graduate from Sergeant's Major Academy was awesome. But so too was going out and taking in the ridiculous awesomeness of Carlsbad Caverns with one of my best friends, Matt, and my sister, Misty. That adventure was really cool. Um, it's that little June trip of seeing like Garden of the Gods and Carlsbad Caverns, driving up Pikes Peak, that little week right there was easily one of the highlights of 2025. Like, that was the week where everything seemed to be good that particular week. And so, what else? We did get out to the beach. I can't complain about spending time sitting in the sun and sand and, having a refreshing beverage. And relaxing on the beach. I'd be hard pressed to find, to say that was an ideal situation. I do love that. Um, so, and then, yeah. And so it was a relatively short list. um, Also, I shouldn't be so dismissive because, over in September, I was able to make a career shift and put myself on better footing, uh, probably mentally and financially. And that was helpful. Granted, 2 weeks later, they shut down the US government for 40 some days. So that didn't help. But that's now in the rear view, too. And, I'm back and I'm learning this new thing, and it's going well. And I'm looking forward to carrying that particular thing into the new year. I'd also be very curious, just from y'all's perspective, um, what were some of your highlights for 2025? Um, Whether they were high pointing highlights, personal highlights, just in general. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who had a hell of a year. So I'd be very curious if there were things that that you had that were personal favorites. Um, in other news, um, oh, that is true, Jess. Lapland and the Aurora Borealis. You also got to go see Perry Roubaix too, which was, yeah, had to be a highlight. I even have the little keychain. Not here though, because my keys are in the other room. Um, and closing out the year, 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? It must have been. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. I got to meet up with another one of our members of this chat. I don't see them on today, but I got to meet Eric Kelly in person. We went and saw the reenactment of Washington's crossing the Delaware River, which was really cool. It was great to meet Eric. He's a great guy. Hopefully, at some point in time, you might get a chance to meet him as well. It was a good afternoon watching some good living history in the reenactment. It's If you ever get a chance, hopefully, well, next year is going to be wild because it'll be the 250th anniversary of it. But hopefully, if you get a chance to get out to that part of Pennsylvania / New Jersey, they'll be able to actually launch the Durham boats. They weren't able to do it when we were there because, surprisingly, the water level was too low. Um, I was I knew the Durham boats were large, but you don't realize how large. Like, even the vessels they had there for the reenactment are small compared to the real size of these barges might be a better word, but they're 60 feet long and weigh 6,000 pounds. They are not they're not small craft by any means, and require some pretty skillful handling even today. So It was definitely still though the day lived up to the billing because it had snowed the night before, so it actually felt like the winter that Washington may have experienced. You don't always get that in Pennsylvania, especially in December. Um, but that particular day, it really looked the part, and it was really cool. Definitely a thing to go check out. I think I've talked about it a long time ago, but that is one of my all-time favorite historical events in U.S. history is Washington's crossings of the Delaware, because there's not just the crossing of the Delaware, there are multiple crossings of the Delaware. And I feel like I'm repeating again, but from a combat engineer perspective, a logistics perspective, it really is an amazing feat of of river handling, army logistics, troop movement, the works that they were able to make that happen. So definitely worth checking out if you ever get a chance. It's in the Taylorsville Township area. There is it's the Washington Crossing State Park, Pennsylvania. There is one for Jersey as well, literally right across the river. Um, and yeah, if you get a chance, you should look into even if you can't make the reenactment, just going and seeing the site. It's crazy to see because the Delaware River there is a whole lot bigger than you may think it. Like it's a significant little body of water to cross over. So so that was 2025. Wrap that up. I see, Bill. You were like 3 high points this year, all repeats. Nice. I haven't seen Metallica since 1997 in the Greensboro Arena down in North Carolina. There's a bigger story behind that I can't really tell right now. But it was a great show. That's cool, though. That is definitely cool. Um, there is. So, 2026. What are the plans? Well, one of the plans that is sort of set in stone is we're going to Spain in August to the Valencia area to see the solar eclipse. My wife and Magnus, my son, will be heading over there for a week, and that's going to be a highlight. I don't think I'll be able to knock out any high points in that particular part of Spain. Um, but never say never. Maybe something. But I'm really excited to do that bit of travel. Um, I'm also excited to sort of get projects back online again. In particular, get some Rooftops of America stuff going. Um, I'd love to at least get 2 new peaks, Mount Hood and Bora in Idaho. Would be great because, hey, I'm getting to that point where I really got to start knocking those Western ones out. So those two are high on the list. Um, I also would really like to resuscitate the Kansas trip that I had sketched out for March of last year of refilming the Kansas episode. I actually want to refilm all the Great Plains episodes. South Dakota has always been this little burr under my saddle of like it's good, and if I just would have went a couple more minutes, it would have been great, but I didn't. So it has been this constant sort of nagging thing in the back of my head where I'm like, I need to go redo that. And I figure if I'm going to do South Dakota, I should actually redo the rest. Uh, and Kansas in particular um, has always been one of these where when we filmed it originally, Jess and I, years ago, wow, 8 years ago, 8 years ago. Not, it'll soon be 9 years ago, 2026. Um, it was one of these things where I was still just focused on the high point. And I don't tell stories like that anymore. not just focused on the high point. I like to tell like a richer historical story of the state, of the region, some of the other things that might be worth seeing in Kansas, instead of just focusing right on, say, Mount Sunflower. Because as those of you that have been there and have seen the sign, I want to say, what is it? In 1897, absolutely nothing happened at this location. That's sort of Mount Sunflower writ large. Uh, and I don't think people will take that as a slight, but it's hard to tell a story in that particular area without, you know, without doing a lot of digging. And the funny thing is when I went back for it, I've done a lot more digging. There is more story there. And but I wasn't prepared to tell it at that point in time. Um, so hey Eric, um, glad you're here. I was just singing your praises a little earlier, and what it was a genuine joy to meet you a couple weeks ago at the reenactment. So thanks for being awesome. Um, the so yeah, Kansas. I'd love to get that back in the site picture, so to speak, and get that rolling. I have really been thinking over the last couple weeks of the whole Mount Kerwood thing, and I know it's not official yet, but I think I can see the writing on the wall on that one. Um, and I'd like to at least go get it knocked out. Surprisingly, not much on that episode would change, um, because that storyline going up through the LP, and the Toledo War, all that stuff would still ride. It's just a matter of um, adding not embellishing either, but expanding out on the measuring elements. And surprisingly, when I was looking back through other Rooftops of America stuff, I've never really, except with the exception of Delaware, really dove into the the surveying and measuring aspect. And I feel like, I mean, there's been a little bit, but I never have really picked it apart. And I feel like this is the perfect location, Mount Kerwood, to sort of go into detail of the improvements of surveying equipment, tools, skills, since, Mason and Dixon were moving chains back in the 1760s. I feel like this is that Mount. So there is another storyline that goes with Mount Kerwood that would be fun to pick apart and add to the the story. I've also seriously considered of adding to the story a little bit about Isle Royale, um, because frankly, I think that could be pretty cool too. Um, and making that hike out to Mount Desert, um, Desort, I can't remember. It's on the Greenstone Ridge. Um, if I don't see Pretzel, but I know Pretzel would know what I'm talking about, and he would immediately put it in there. So, oh, Bill, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to go where they film the cemetery scene. Um, Talk about a quick way to derail a conversation. I love. So those are my dad's favorite movies, and it's one of my favorite movies. I love the whole. Um, excuse me. Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, um, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West. That whole sort of, call it not a trilogy. I mean, and yes, I know Once Upon a Time in the West is a little bit different, but still, that whole sort of bit, those Italian spaghetti westerns, I absolutely love it. It's interesting because that is, speaking of high points, Glorietta Pass is what they're sort of referencing is Sibley's invasion of whatchamacallit, of New Mexico, and so if you were like, well, how does this fit into the bigger scheme of things? That's actually the piece of the war they're talking about, and it's fascinating to me that seeing that very particular lens on an American conflict from an Italian perspective, and there's no other than the uniforms and some of the names. It's more, excuse me, more of a historical. It's truly a historical fiction. But damn, that movie's so damn good, and that scene right there, and the way it is particularly filmed, and the highlights on the eyes, and the cutting, and the music swelling up, and the ecstasy of gold. When Tuco's running. Sorry, Bill. I got a little bit off track, so let me shift it back. But yes, totally. um, okay, so Hood, yes. Bora, yes. Absolutely try to, I'd love to revitalize Kansas, love to do Kerwin. Um, and, the one that's still in my back pocket that I really think would be fun to do is still New York City and Long Island, the 5 boroughs. And, oh, Eric's got a final offer on doing a winter assignment at Washington, you and the listeners. I'm not sure I can take that right now, Eric. I don't think I'm in the condition for it. I have been super lazy, even more lazy than I was before I met you. These last 2 weeks have been a little bit of overindulgence. Call it the excitement of putting 2025 in the rearview mirror. But if any of you are interested, reach out to Eric. I'm sure I'm sure it would be quite the event. So, but yeah, so New York City too, and I feel like that's a good enough year. If I can knock out those, it's not. I don't want to be. I don't want to try to swing back and be super ambitious and then not be able to meet the mark. Um, I just want to get my pace going again. I want to buckle down and start getting in good condition because the Western Peaks are no joke. And like I told Eric 2 weeks ago when he asked, what are my odds of doing all 50? Honestly, I said 60%. And, I've thought about that answer over the last 2 weeks since I gave it to you, Eric. And man, am I truly being honest with myself? Is it more like 55%? Or am I short selling myself? Um, I don't know. But I think this is the year that I find out, is that a valid statement? And I think, Hood and Bora are going to be sort of these testing grounds to really sort of like, am I prepared? Or not necessarily am I prepared, but is this is the desire still strong, and am I in the right headspace to do it? So yeah, that's that. Um, I've talked a lot. What do you guys have for next year? What are you thinking? What are your big plans? Um, what do you got lined up for potential high points? Oh, one last thing. I believe the convention's in West Virginia, and if I'm around, I'm gonna go. I'm committing to it. Um, I think it's in West Virginia. I can. Once again, this is where I miss Pretzel because he'd be like, "Yes, it is." But yeah, I feel like I've dodged the convention over the last couple of years. I really should go. Um, there you go. Thanks, Bill. And check it out, and hopefully meet up with some folks. So, um, yes, there's that. I don't know when the dates are. Yeah, Gannett and Granite are multi-day, so it's a little different too. Yes, you're absolutely right. I feel like though with the multi-day ones, the camping and hiking and all that, stuff with Kings Peak and all that. I I love that shit. Excuse my language there, but I love hiking and camping and all that. So that doesn't bother me as much. It's hard. I don't know if I'm explaining it correct, but I'm really good at being able to compartmentalize my days. Um, it's like when I approached Ironman, it's how I approached it was not one big thing, but oh, I'm going to go swim a couple miles. I'm going to go ride a bike for a couple hours. Well, now I'm going to run a little bit. Not looking at it as one whole thing. Um, so I've always been really good at being able to compartmentalize. So for something like granite, I'm like, well, I just got to get here today. And then I got to get here tomorrow. And then I got to go up and come down and get out. And so it's easy for me to do that mental gymnastics, and put that in my. That's always been a little bit of a superpower of compartmentalizing my activities, and then afterwards being able to be like, "Oh my god, that was a lot." So yeah, we'll find out. I'd be very curious though to know what some of you guys got in your in for your plans, um, and if you're thinking about the convention as that gets closer. Hopefully that will work with my schedule. I'd really like it to. I think I'm going to try to make my schedule work with it, unless for some reason it's in August and I'm in Spain. So, oh, and there is one last thing, and I've mentioned this to a couple folks, but I am still trying to figure out if I can make a trip to Ireland, potentially around the end of April, right at the shoulder season, um, and start filming the rooftops of the Irish and British Isles. Um, so we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Still doing some research into the logistics of that. Um, also looking if for some reason some of you have any recommendations on good um, YouTube channels you watch with maybe on Irish hiking or British hiking. There's a couple of folks I've watched over the years. But Ireland in particular right now, I'd be very keen to know if there's any channels that you recommend, because I'm thinking this is getting to the point, this might get to the point where it would be really nice to have a local, so to speak, to help negotiate or navigate some of the weird random obstacles that come up when you travel to a foreign country. So let's go to the thing. So Mount Marcy and Katahdin were on my to-do list for 25, moving them to next year, and cross my fingers I can make it work. I hope you can, Bill. Both of those are, I did those two in a year. I did, like, it was, shoot, that was 2024. Did Marcy in July, and then Katahdin with Matt in September. And those are tough little nuts. They were tough nuts to crack. On looking back on it, which was the harder? Probably Katahdin. Though both, I feel like those are two where like it really depended. It could depend on the day. Like it could flip flop back and forth. You know, if you had a good day on one, you'd be like, oh yeah, that was, it wouldn't be easy, but yeah, I was able to knock that out. And like Marcy sucked, um, but it was yeah, it was only two east of the Mississippi left. Awesome, congratulations. That's a huge one. Like I remember when I knocked out Kentucky because that was those were my last two east of the Mississippi, and wrapping them up was such, like, it really was one of these things of like, wow, like this part of the map is completely done. You know, there's no little white spots hanging around because you've completely wrapped them up, and so that was really cool. It was really rewarding. And no matter what order you do them in, hopefully you'll have blue skies because, man, the views on both of them are absolutely fantastic. Um, Good stuff. Like it genuinely was. Those were rewarding summits. So, and yeah, so I don't know. That's what 2026 looks like. Um, Anybody else's stuff that they're thinking, uh, or if they want to give it some thought. And when we reapproach this, I'll probably get a live stream going for the middle of January. We can dwell on it again. But I will say, I hope you all had a good set of holidays. I'm going to wrap this one relatively early because upstairs there's still a little festive cheer going on, and I want to get back to it. But I'm really glad to see you all here. I hope your holidays have been uh, full of joy and mirth and rewarding so far. And I have not looked in the military campground at Hawaii yet, but I did mention it to my brother, and he said, I might have to see if Amanda wants to go. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted, Eric. Um, but I hope the rest of the year is kind, and I hope New Year's Eve is awesome, and you start New Year's Day 2026 in high spirits and good fortune. So, with that said, cheers, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.